Welcome back to the Across the Pod NFL podcast. It's time for our penultimate season preview of the off-season, and this time it's a turn of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. With me, I've got a returning guest. Back with me today is 5 Yard Rush Murf. How are you, mate?
All good, mate. Always happy to talk Buccaneers, maybe slightly less so this season than sort of the previous few 5-6 years. But yeah, let's get into it and let's preview what is going to be the wild ride of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in 2023.
It certainly is, and it certainly starts with quarterback. So, of course, the main outs include Tom Brady, who retired. Also, Sean Murphy-Bunting has gone to the Titans, your former cornerback. Tackle Donovan Smith has gone to the Chiefs. Cameron Brate, Leonard Fournette have all gone, but they're still free agents. Shaq Mason has been traded to the Houston Texans. And you did sign and release Rodrigo Blankenship, as well as kicker Ryan Succop. Other players coming in, likes of Ryan Neal from the Seahawks, Baker Mayfield, as well as John Wolford at the quarterback position, defensive lineman Greg Gaines, as well as running back Chase Edmonds and kicker Chase McLaughlin. Also re-signing the likes of Devontae David, William Golston, and he exercised the fifth-year option on tackle Tristan Wirfs. And in the draft, he took Kalaya Kancey, defensive tackle from Pittsburgh, 19th overall out of North Dakota State. Offensive tackle Cody Mork, 48th overall, as well as Yaya Diaby, defensive end, 82nd overall out of Louisville, with 8 picks taken in total. So overall for you, Murf, your thoughts on your team's offseason as a whole?
I think you have to really paint the context of this offseason. When you hear everything there, you think, wow, that's a really underwhelming offseason. And it is, but there's the reason why. This team, this franchise went all in with Tom Brady, won it in 2020, decided to reload, re-signed everybody, went all in again in 2021. And you know, they were one game away really from winning it because they got level with the Rams after an appalling first half. Get level with the Rams. They've got to see out one series, and then Cooper Kupp blows the coverage and scores the winning touchdown to eliminate the Buccaneers. And I think if the Buccaneers beat the Rams wouldn't have won the Super Bowl. The Buccaneers would have gone back to back. I'm 100% convinced on who was left, they'd have run the table. That team was better than the 2020 team. So, and then the hangover of 2022 was a really, really bad year. Part of that was some cap restriction, but part of that was just Arians going, but a staleness of what was in the place. And then basically the Buccaneers walked into this season with $74.3 million in dead cap because they reloaded everyone, restructured with a load of dead years, restructured contracts, and effectively they had to pay the bill. You know, they didn't do this New Orleans, we're just going to kick the can down the road, kick the can down the road, kick the can down the road, and then we'll pay the credit card when we can't afford it. You know, Jason Light made it very clear that this was the plan. They were going to have to pay out and pay the bill. So they're doing it in one hit. That's what this year is, which is why it's a very underwhelming free agency class. Didn't have a lot of money to spend in free agents. It's why Donovan Smith and Ryan Succop had to go. You know, these weren't players that weren't capable. They were players that were earning more money than the average at the position and had to go. Same with people like Leonard Fournette, etc. Although he very nearly went last year. So Baker Mayfield was the best they could get for the money they could afford. A 1 year, $4 million deal. Probably the base is even less than that. So, you know, you have to look at what was available and what was available for what they could afford. And they were effectively pound chop. You know, they're pound landing it. They were literally getting budget players to come in. Now, they're lucky. There's a lot of skill on the offensive side, on the defensive side of the ball, that this roster is loaded. The defense is going to be what keeps this team competitive. But on the offensive side of the ball, you've got some very good wide receivers, but this offensive line is pretty terrible. The quarterback positions, I mean, Baker Mayfield's won this job. I don't know how he's won this job. I think it was preconceived. I don't believe it was a fair contest. Kyle Trask has been much better in training camp. He's been much better in the preseason games. He's clearly shown that he's good enough to lead the team. I don't rate Baker Mayfield. I'm not happy with the signing. You know, you got to remember that the Browns, who drafted him 1 overall were so desperate to get rid of him, they paid $10.5 million of his base salary in 2022 to trade him to the Carolina Panthers, where he was cut mid-season. And yes, he had that one amazing comeback against the Raiders. And yes, he had a couple of okay appearances for the Rams. But this is a guy who is on his 4th team in 2 years. Like, nobody's wanted to keep him. So it's a 1-year deal. The team clearly think that he can do something. I'm not convinced he's going to take this team that far forward. PFF ranked him 37th amongst 39 QBs. Do you want to take a guess who the 2 QBs were that ranked behind him? One of them was an NFL starter. One sort of came in as a cover for an injury.
Right. So I guess
he's not an NFL. The starter is not a starter anymore.
Oh, so Zach Wilson.
Zach Wilson, who was dead last.
Other quarterback. So he wasn't a starter at any point. He was he came
in as a starter due to injury.
Right. Okay. So that means something like, I don't know, Trevor Siemian, Mike White, someone like that.
Close. NFC.
NFC.
NFC East quarterback.
Cooper Rush.
I don't think he's there anymore. No, Taylor Heineke.
Oh wow.
Yeah. We're talking about they were the 2 QBs last year with lower passing or lower PFF ratings than Baker Mayfield. So yeah. I mean, it's not one that's going to get you out of your seats. And I know some Bucs fans that are very excited to see Baker Mayfield. I personally am looking forward to him getting benched and roll, which I don't know why they didn't roll with Trask. But there we go. We'll see Trask at some point in the season, 100%. This contest was a lot closer, I think, than the coaching staff thought it would be, which also tells you how great Baker Mayfield really is. So yeah, I think you're going to see. I think you're going to see Baker benched. I think you might see something very similar to what happened in Tampa. Do you remember when Jameis Winston was banned for 3 games? Ryan Fitzpatrick came in and won those 3 games. Really difficult games as well, and then basically took over from Winston, became the starter because you couldn't bench him. Had a horror show against the Steelers. No, he was good against the Steelers. It was the following game where he had a mare, and then they benched him, and then they went to Winston. He had a mare. They benched him. They went back to Fitzpatrick. They benched him, and then they eventually went back to Winston. They went backwards and forwards. I think you might see this quite a bit this season, where I think they could rotate QB a couple of times, and I don't think either QB is going to play 10 games.
So then, if that does happen, so, whether it is Trask, whether it's Baker Mayfield who comes in, who's playing week 17 or playing in week 18, is it going to be the draft next year? Because obviously we'll get onto later on how bad you think you might do in terms of how far you might be in terms of draft positions for next year. But do you think, they'll go down the route next year of maybe go down a free agency quarterback, or whether go down the route of going for the draft? Or do you think they might even stick with the likes of Trask or Mayfield? What do you think happens going on further from the season in that position?
I don't think Mayfield's on the roster next year. Barring him going lights out, I don't think he's on the roster. The problem you've got is how much rope does the coaching staff have? I think Bowles is on the hot seat. I don't think they're overly sold on Bowles. I think they were 8 and 9. Yes, he won a division title last year, but 8 and 9, and it was pretty terrible. This Bucs team went 2-0 and then failed to win a game by more than 6 points the rest of the season. They won a lot of close games in what was one of the worst divisions we've ever seen in the NFL. That NFC South last year was appalling. If in any other division, they don't make the playoffs. Let's get it right. And there were flashes of some moments. And there was some terrible play calling in there, and Byron Leftwich was very predictable in his play calling. Running first down 74% of the time, going for it on third down in the air like over 70% of the time. Like, it was very predictable play calling. You kind of knew what was going to happen, and if I, as a fan, know what's going to happen, defensive coordinators across the field are going to know exactly what's going to happen. And this team just wasn't very good. And it's only going to get worse this season. So Trask is an interesting one. If he comes in and he plays well, then he puts himself in the hot seat to keep the job next year. But my gut feeling is they clean house. 9 coaches left last year. which tells me that Todd Bowles isn't in a very strong position, because if he was, he'd have kept a lot of the staff. So that tells me he's playing for his job. Jason Light, does he keep his job? I think he probably does. I think the Super Bowl win probably keeps him there, and he's done a pretty good job in the draft. He's had some whoppers, but I think overall, I don't think his draft class has been too badly. So he could probably argue he could keep his job if he wants. But I think Bowles is in a lot of trouble this year, and I think if he goes, then all bets are off as to what happens at the quarterback position. Draft could go free agency. The cap issues of this year don't exist next year. They got a lot of cap next year. They could attack the free agency position if the right QB comes along. I think they've got options next year to go how they want to go, which is why they didn't want to commit to anyone this year. So they're not committing. They've shown it in training camp. They're not in love with anyone. So I don't think Baker Mayfield stays in this roster past this season. If he makes the end of the season, I'll be a little shocked. But I think Trask can win the job, and I think he can earn the job for next season. But he could also give it away and be off this roster too next year.
Well, I'm just looking at some quarterbacks that will be available according to spottrack.com. That will be available in next year's free agency. Obviously, the biggest one, for obvious reasons, is Kirk Cousins. He's the main headline one, but other ones could Ryan Tannehill, Jacoby Brissett, Marcus Mariota, Sam Darnold, who could, if he shows signs this year, if Purdy isn't fit for week one or doesn't have some injury again, he could be available as well. Drew Lock, Baker Mayfield's on this list, and it's not great on James Winston's on this list. Gardner Minshew, Colt McCoy. So obviously, Kirk Cousins would be the one that you would go for if you had that choice, but
not for the money he'll command. I don't think the Buccaneers do it. He'll want big money, fully guaranteed. He was the first QB to get a fully guaranteed contract. The Buccaneers won't do that. I don't think so. I from hearing that list, I would say that the draft probably looks likely. I don't think. The one thing that people are going to assume this year is the Bucs are going to tank. The one thing I can guarantee you is the Bucs won't tank. Now they could finish in a top 5 pick by being bad, but they're not. The top Bowls can't afford to tank. This franchise will not tank. So unless Bowles has some assurances that he's got a job next season, which I don't think he does. I don't. This franchise will not tank. They will not tank for Caleb Williams. It won't happen. Now, they could end up there, and maybe if they're in a position to get him with 2 games to go, then, that could be an option. But at that point, I'd imagine Bowles would probably have been fired already. So I think then a different kettle of fish happens. So that could happen. But I don't see this franchise while Bowles is in charge, tank. It won't happen.
And in terms of, when you mentioned Byron Leftwich, he's one of the outside as well. Obviously, offensive coordinator for 3 seasons from 2019 until the end of 2022 season. Now, what do you think's happened with him? Because he was at one point linked with a lot of head coaching jobs, including the Jaguars job, which obviously Peterson got instead. He was part of the Super Bowl winning team, and really the offense didn't change too much to the personnel. You still had Mike Evans, still had Chris Godwin. You had Antonio Brown for half of the season after you won it. Tom Brady was there, albeit he digressed in 2022. So what would you put obviously he's been fired, it didn't go well last year. What would you sort of put that down to, the reason why it went so wrong, so south for that Leftwich as your coordinator?
Let's be honest, he was faking it. He is probably the worst offensive coordinator I've seen in Tampa, and I've seen a few. He didn't have a clue. He did not have a clue. And he got found out when Arians left. That's what happened. Arians was part of the game planning. Arians built his offense. Arians owned his offense. Did he call every play? No. Did he approve every play? Probably. There's no disguising the fact that Arians left and this offense went from what was a pretty meager but average rushing attack to the worst in the NFL. This team was single-handedly one of the worst ever rushing teams to have ever existed in the NFL. It was that bad. Rushing success, 32nd in the NFL. This team didn't even manage 4 yards a carry on average. It was an appalling effort. Rush success rate was one of the all-time lows. And they had the talent. They drafted Rashad White, who has talent. You've got Leonard Fournette, who won a Super Bowl. What happened was the predictability of play calling. Byron Leftwich ran the same calls over and over again. If I had to see another end around on first down again, I honestly would have torn my. We got to the point as Bucs fans that we just could tell you what play was coming. It just was so predictable. Like I said, they run the ball 74% on first down, which doesn't give you an advantage. If the other team knows you're going to run the ball on first down, what do? You stack the box. It was just a lack of creativity in play calling. And you're relying on a 45-year-old quarterback. Okay, he's the greatest of all time. But you're relying on a 45-year-old quarterback to make miracles. And he did it time and time again. He dragged that team to 8 and 9 in a division title. Any other QB in the league, I think that team finishes with 4 wins, 5 wins. It was that bad with that offensive coordinator. So the fans wanted him gone. He's gone. He got found out very quickly. And that's why he didn't get that's why he didn't get a head coaching job. And that's why he's not going to get an offensive coordinator job in the NFL, because he's not good. He's not good enough to be an offensive coordinator. And the problem is with Bowles, because he's a defensive coach, he needs somebody who's going to run the offense, because he's not that side of the ball. So you don't have that cover that he had the first couple of years where Arians was carrying him, or 3 years where Arians was carrying him. Arians was making the big calls. Arians was saying, right, we're going for this, boys. We'll risk it, no biscuit. No risk it, no biscuit. That stopped. How many times did they air the ball downfield last season? Very few. And the vertical attack went. So when the vertical attack goes, and you've got one of the best 50-50 contested catches wide receivers probably the league's ever seen in Mike Evans, and you're not giving him 50-50 contested catches out there, what are you doing? It was madness. So yeah, Canales comes in from Seattle, first ever offensive coordinator job, but he's been in the league a long time. Quarterbacks coach. You look at what he did with Geno Smith last year. The guy's ready for it. You'll see an improved and more varied offense this year, and there's some weapons to use. I just worry about this offensive line, and I worry about the quarterback play behind it. But I hope that Canales doesn't I hope he's not a one and done. I hope that someone sees enough in him to give him a job next year if they do clean house.
Now, one thing that you can have some positive about, as well as winning the division last season, was your defense, because looking at the stats, you were 10th in the league for passing yards allowed, 10th in the league for total yards allowed, 15th for rushing yards allowed, and 14th for points allowed. So even though you weren't great and the offense definitely declined, there was some positive to come out of that season, that you were still capable when it comes to defense. Now, what's your feeling on them? We've talked about a lot about the offense so far, but in terms of the defense, what's your hopes and what you're hoping to get out of this defense in 2023?
This defense is a top 3 defense in the league. Last season, they made the playoffs purely on the back of this. As I mentioned, they won a lot of one-score games, and a lot of those one-score games was because the defense made a lot of stops. Probably the one weakness is the amount of turnovers that this defense generates. It definitely needs to generate more, but this defense is loaded. It's absolutely loaded with talent all the way through every phase of the game. You've got Devin White, you've got Levante David, you've got Shaquille Barrett, you've got Vita Vea, you've got Antoine Winfield Jr., you've got Ryan Neal, you've got Carlton Davis. You are absolutely load Jamal Dean. This D is loaded. And you got JTS, who's a first round pick. He hasn't quite shown everything that he could do yet, but this is his year, hopefully, that he starts to rebound and put it all together. And then you got Cansey, we're adding to that, to partner Vita Vea. I mean, that is a nasty front that is going to stop the run over and over again. The best rushers in the league aren't going to stand a chance against Cansey and Vea. There's just no chance. So this team's loaded on the other side of the ball. It's absolutely stacked. It needs to generate more turnovers, but you've got Todd Bowles, who's one of the best ever defensive coordinators that in the last 20 years that this league has seen. We saw what he did with Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl. He had him in absolute knots. And we know what he can do, especially in the big moments. So this D will be the reason that the Buccaneers can win 6-7 games this season, maybe more. But if this team does anything this year, it will all be on that side of the ball because it's just loaded. And what we will be excited to see is what they do, especially Cansey, the first round pick. I know he's injured; he might miss the start, but man, and what he showed in camp, this guy's a freak. Like, he's an absolute freak. He's going to be an absolute star if he comes back healthy. And with Vaya next to him, wow. I mean, that is as mean a front as you're going to see in the NFL this season.
Yeah, exciting times. That is a great segue into our final segment, which is going to be our win, loss, tie section. So if you are listening or watching on YouTube for the first time and haven't yet been familiar with the process of this segment, we ask every fan to predict their team's record by going through each game, answering with win, loss, tie. Now, last season, we had your friend, as well as one of my friends, Dan Hughes, came on the podcast to predict the Bucs record. Now, you finished in real life with 8-9 and won the division. But can you guess what Dan's record prediction was last year? What he predicted them to have?
Oh, God, knowing Dan, he's quite conservative. So I reckon he'd have gone like 11 wins.
13. 13.
Okay. Daniel. To be fair, with how bad the division was, that shouldn't have been that far out of the reach.
yeah. I mean, it was a terrible division, and just on that, I mean, it's certainly improving. So obviously, it's a scary time in terms of the Buccaneers fan because the Falcons have got Jesse Bates, and I think they've got a good coach in Arthur Smith there. Bijan Robinson's come in as well. The Panthers have got Bryce Young now. And I think Frank Reich has done a great job in the past. I know his last year didn't go well in Indianapolis, but I think he's a good coach there. And then the Saints, I don't think Derek Carr's the answer long term. I think he could be a good short term fix. I think having him with Chris Olave, I think is a good duo. And Alpha Kamara once he's back from suspension, as well as Jamal Williams. So it's going to be a definitely tougher division. So interesting to see what your predictions go as. So week 1, you are on the road, I should say, to the Minnesota Vikings. Win, loss, or tie?
No, a loss.
Okay. Week 2, you're at home for the first time this season against the Chicago Bears.
So I'm going to watch this with a bunch of UK Bucs fans, including Dan. So I'm going to go with a win because, we broke the streak of not winning in New Orleans when we watched them last year. So, go with a win. Optimistically, I think it'll be a close one, but I think we'll nick a win at home to the Bears.
I want to ask you because you sound like you've been to a few games now. Do you know what your overall record is watching watching the Buccaneers play live at games?
Actually live. So we're watching it in a bar in London as opposed to actually going out live.
To Tampa Bay.
No. Sorry, I should have clarified. Yeah, we're going to Belushi's and watching them together in I have what's my record seeing the Bucs live? I've seen them a lot, especially in the early years. I've seen them win a Super Bowl live, so
nice.
1-0 in Super Bowls. I don't actually know what the actual. I know it's a winning record. We went last year, one in Munich. We were there. Obviously, last time we were in London, we've lost all 3 times in London. So, I was there for all 3. The last 2 times in Tampa, I've seen the loss. I don't know. I think there's a winning record in there, but it'd be stacked heavily on the early years where I sort of 01 to 03 picked up a lot of wins when I was there and a few on the road as well. So, but also watching them in Belushi's 3-0. So
nice.
Hopefully we can extend that record to 4-0 against the Bears.
Good luck, Charles, then Belushi's.
Yeah, it is a little bit. So fingers crossed.
Is it the same Belushi that we went to for the fantasy football event? The same one, or was it different?
Yes, no, same one. So nice. We've hired out a booth. We did it last year. There's a video of me on. There's a video of a few of us on Twitter or X or whatever it's called now, which Rick Stroud retweeted, where we predicted Jameis Winston throwing a pick, and we were all going because we knew it was coming. So that was good fun. So we're looking forward to that one.
That'll be amazing stuff. Well, week 3 it's quite a tough one on paper. You're at home to the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, we'll lose that one.
Yeah, no one needs to say about that. That's all we need to say.
Yeah, no, I think hopefully we'll keep it somewhat close because we should match up pretty well against the Eagles, especially on the ground. I think we can contain Hurts, but I don't see us overpowering them, unfortunately.
Yeah, I can see that as well. Week 4, you're on the road to the New Orleans Saints.
Yeah, lost there as well.
Okay. Week 5 is a bye week. So week 6, you're at home to the Detroit Lions.
Oh, this is a close one. I'm going to go with a loss.
Okay, not the best start.
I'm gonna get absolutely rinsed when some people listen to this. I
Yeah.
just think Dan Campbell and what he's done with the Lions and the different array of weapons, I think they could just outmatch us a little bit there.
So week 7 is a home game against the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah, we'll win that one. 100%.
So week 8, a game I'm actually going to, is on the road to the
Oh,
Bills.
yeah, that'd be a loss. Go
Yeah,
do the cold well.
but I will be
It's
cheering
late
on the Bills.
October, it'd be cold.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean,
Make
it's
sure when you go, you go and find the guy who cooks pizzas in the filing cabinet.
that I've got to find. That is my mission now. Like you mentioned.
I'm setting you a challenge. I want a picture with the guy who cooks his pizzas in the filing cabinet. He's there every game, tailgate, so it's
Yeah.
phenomenal.
Oh, I can't wait. I mean, I've been to Buffalo very briefly, but I didn't have been to a game yet. Hoping I'll be some sort of good luck charm for you guys. I mean, I've seen you guys play once at Raymond James and you lost, so I'm probably not the best good luck charm, but especially with this season, Baker Mayfield is probably not going to help. But hopefully, I can see the Bills lose anyway. Should be a good experience.
Yeah, I think so.
Week 9 is a road game against the Houston Texans.
Yeah, we'll finally pick up our first win on the road against the Texans.
So week 10 is a road game. That's not a road game, home game against the Tennessee Titans.
Oh. Mm, I'll put us down for a loss there against the Titans. I think it'll be close, but I think they might just edge it.
So week 11 is a road game against the San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah, lost. You can pencil that one in.
Yeah.
You probably write it in
Loss
pen.
of the week.
Yeah.
Week 12 is a road game against the Indianapolis Colts.
Oh. Yeah, I think they fancy their chances against AR-15. Yeah, I'd put them for a win there on the road.
So week 13 is a home game against the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah, you can put us down for a win there.
Okay, again, the wins up nicely here. Week 14 is a road game against the Atlanta Falcons.
I would think the winning streak probably comes to an end here.
Okay. So in week 15, you're going to Lambeau Field to take on the Packers.
So I think if we were at home, I'd probably say we would win this. But given the fact it's Lambeau, it's December. I know we won there in January in the AFC title game, but that was when we were riding across the wave with 7-8 wins in a row at that point. I don't think that will be the case. So I'm going to put us down for a loss here. Close loss. I think it'll be a low scoring defeat.
Okay, so then week 16, Christmas Eve, 4:05 p.m. local time and 9:05 p.m. for those watching in the UK, against the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Do you know what? I think we match up pretty well against the Jags. I'll put us in for a win here because I actually think we'll match up pretty well. I think we will. I think the D will swallow them. I think they'll have a good game.
Now, for you, Christmas time off, this will be late into Christmas Eve. We'll probably finish, or will finish, I imagine, just after Christmas Day starts. Now, I don't know how your own traditions are, but will you get to watch this game in your household?
Christmas Eve. Yeah, should do. Should get to watch it on Christmas Eve. Yeah, no, I'll get to watch it live on Christmas Eve. So yeah, I think so. If it was Christmas Day, maybe not, but yeah, I think Christmas Eve, yeah, I'll get to watch it. I think because it's the late game. I think if it was the 6 o'clock, I probably would struggle to miss the start. But yeah, I'll definitely be staying up for this one.
Yeah, I think I'm the same as you. I mean, I think we're playing the exact same time. I think pretty much Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve are going to be both like a full slate of Sunday games. So I think we're playing Dallas. I think it's at 9:25. I think we're definitely playing Dallas. Or that New Year's Eve. It's one of the two. But I know that's going to be a case where, yeah, it's on late enough. We don't have to worry about if you're ignoring parents or ignoring family members. You can just get your iPad out and just watch it. And then when you go to bed, put it on the big screen.
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, we'll be at home, so I'll be watching that, and then same on New Year's Eve. New Year's Eve isn't a big thing in our house, so I'll have that on for sure.
And speaking of which, you faced the New Orleans Saints on that day at home. So again, 1 p.m. local time, 6 p.m. in the UK. If you want to watch that, yeah, win, loss or tie.
I really hate this, but I think we're going to lose. I hate this. This is really horrible. This is like torture. This is like really one of the worst things I've ever done.
Well,
Recording wise, this is genuinely traumatic. Like I hadn't really sat here until this and gone win, lose, win, lose. Yeah, okay. Yeah, loss. I don't think we're going to win this at all.
well, welcome to the podcast.
Oh, thanks, mate.
And finally, week 18 is a road game against the Panthers.
Yeah, we will lose this one as well. Don't have a good record in Carolina.
So speaking of records, you will end this year, according to your predictions, with a 6-10 record.
That sounds about right.
Actually, that's not right. I think I've miscounted here. I'm giving you 6-10, not 6-11, or I've missed that.
Yeah, it's 6-11.
Should be right. Let me guess. This is what you get for going to festival the day before recording this. Yeah, 6-11. So yeah, that has you currently. Look, you are 32nd guest and our 31st team. So you are our joint second least optimistic fan.
I'm surprised there's someone least optimistic than me. Was it the Texans fan by any chance?
It was a Cardinals fan.
Really? Oh, so I think the Cardinals might shock a few people this year.
Oh, really? Okay, tell me about that.
I don't think they're going to be as bad as people think they're going to be. I don't quite understand this whole they're going to be terrible. Listen, I don't think their division is all that. Their division isn't great. It's got the 49ers in it. They walk the division. I think you can look at that and say that the 49ers have got that division locked. Then you got Seattle, who aren't bad, but they're not great. They made the playoffs, but
I like Witherspoon a lot.
Yeah, they're great defensively. I'm not sure offensively. Are we going to see the Geno Smith for 2022? I'm not so sure. And they've lost their offensive. They've lost some coaching on that side of the ball. I don't know. So then you've got the Rams. I think the Rams are going to be terrible. Like for me, would not shock me if the Cardinals win more games than the Rams. Because the Rams are paying the piper. They're in the same boat. They've had no first round draft pick for, I don't know, 10,000 years or however long they've traded picks for. And then, you got Matt Stafford in his back. I don't think he finishes the season. They've got no real. If Cam Akers is a walking, you might as well put the Q next to him every week on the old injury status right now, because there's no guarantee he plays that many games. They've got one stellar wide receiver in Cooper Kupp, and then you've got Van Jefferson, who's not bad, but he's not the best two in the world. And then they've got what, Paku or Tutu Atwell, like Tutu Atwell, who I think he's the same weight as 144 quarter pounders. Like that's not that many when you really think about it. So I sat there and worked it out. It's not that many. So I sit there and think I don't think the Rams are that good. They've lost a lot of talent on D. It wouldn't shock me. I think Jonathan Gannon is a better coach than people give credit for. I know it's his first year. I know he's been given a bit of a dud hand. I know that the Cardinals wide receivers aren't all that. I know the offensive line is trash. I get all that. I think Kyler Murray, when he's back, wins games on his own. I think he's that good. I'm not saying he's elite, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, don't at me. But I think I look at that division, he's the best quarterback in that division, and it really isn't close. Genuinely, I think it's Kyler Murray, and then there's a big gap to the rest. I would have said Stafford in his prime, but we're talking Stafford at the very, very end of his career with multiple back surgeries. Like, I don't think he has got what he had 5 years ago. I think Brock Purdy's fine for that system. Any other system, he's not playing. And then you've got Geno, who, listen, great year last year. Not going to take it away from him. But there's a reason the guy was a backup until he was 31 years old.
True. Yeah.
I just think, some things just you can't odds. So I just think if you've got the best quarterback in the division, you've got a chance most weeks of pulling off some results. And in fact, you look at the conference, it's not many better. You'd argue that what? Hurts is better. I think he's better than all the quarterbacks in the South. easily. I mean, you give Bryce Young some time, but this year he's going to be better. So he's better than all the quarterbacks in the South. He's better than all the quarterbacks in the West. It's only Hurts in the East. And then the North, Kirk Cousins. I mean, you got Jordan Love, barely played. You got Jared Goff. He's better than Jared Goff.
Do you reckon?
And you got
I like Goff.
yeah, I think
I
like Goff. I like Goff. I think Kyler Murray's a better quarterback. I don't think I'm reaching out there. And then you got Fields. He's a better quarterback than Fields. So realistically, you're saying that he could be the second best quarterback in the NFC. And when you sit there, that is baffling. I've only just really got that solution in my head right now, but really, I'm only putting Jalen Hurts ahead of him. And you could make an argument for Kirk Cousins. You could make an argument, but I wouldn't make that argument. But someone would, and I would be okay. So I think for me, he's the second best quarterback in the conference. And then you think, well, you've just got half a chance. If it depends on when he comes back. If he comes back by week 5, I'm not saying they'll make the playoffs, but I think they'll win games. So I don't think the Cardinals are as bad. I think defensively, they're pretty solid. I think they've got some game changers on there. Yeah. I don't sleep on the Cardinals. I don't think there is. I think the Cardinals will win more games than the Buccaneers this year.
Wow, that is a soundbite. Right, that's the clip all I need for social media now. I've got it here sorted. That's the first thing on my podcast.
I tell you what, I made Paul Picking a happy man tonight.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he'll be loving that. Yeah, I'll make sure I'll send it to him in the group chat and see how he responds to that.
You do so. He'll be like, he wouldn't believe it. And I'm one of the more optimistic Buccaneers fans.
Well, with 6-11, that is really saying something.
Yeah, that is a lot.
But that is where we'll end the podcast for today. So, just first of all, huge thank you again, Murf, for coming on.
Always. Thanks very much. Anytime. Let's do it again soon.
And of course, you've done some great work recently for not only 5 Yard Rush, but also for Fantasy Pros. So, for those listening at home or watching on YouTube, what can we look forward to from you in the next few months, work-wise?
Lots of content. It's been a bit of a challenging year health-wise for me, so it's been getting up to full swing. So I've got half a book that's sitting here on my desk, pretty much. I might just put it out as half a book. I might not. I haven't decided yet. And then, lots of in-season content for 5 Yard Rush. Going to have loads of guests on the pod, loads of writing for Fantasy Pros. Maybe somewhere else, maybe not. It kind of depends on what happens. But I'm going to keep him busy as long as I'm healthy. So, yeah, lots of content. If you want to win your leagues, give me a follow at Murf_NFL. I'll look at lineups. I'll look at trade offers. And I'll just try and help you win some leagues like I have helped a lot of people in the past, supposedly. Or people might just tell me that to be kind, and actually I've cost people a lot of money. Who knows?
Well, I remember at the fantasy event, I asked Will Gavin for advice about who to take because one of my picks. He selected Josh Jacobs for me, and I was almost ready to have a go at him when he comes on the podcast in a few weeks. But now he's signed that contract, then I can have less of an issue with Will Gavin's advice. But yeah, in the meantime, this has been the Across the Pod podcast. I've been Andy, this has been Murf, and we'll see you for our final team season preview, which will be saving the best till last, the Miami Dolphins. See you guys then.